Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's a special edition of Massive Heat. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by Matt Morgan and Raj Geary. And as y'all have probably heard, we are here to chat about the passing of Hulk Hogan, legend in the pro wrestling business. Matt, I'm sure you have a lot of things to say because you've worked with Hulk Hogan directly. But Raj, I want to get your kind of opening thoughts. And of course, everyone who's with us today. Make sure to chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know some stories of Hulk Hogan. And if you use a super chat, we will definitely read it on the air for you. I'd love to see you guys be interactive on this one. But Raj, we were talking before we went live, just surreal news to wake up to. Hulk Hogan passing away at the age of 71.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird one for me, you know, because Hulk Hogan is in many ways is the reason I became a wrestling fan. It was that Hulk versus Andre feud. First time ever I watched a Saturday night's main event, I got hooked. It was Hogan beating King Kong Bundy and then Andre choking him out after, and I had to find out what happened the next week. First bit of wrestling merch I ever bought was the Hulk Rules finger, and then we got a Hulk Hogan poster. First ever wrestling match I went to, Hogan versus Savage in the main event. First pay-per-view I got was Hogan in the main event. So he was huge part of my childhood. I mean, probably the biggest in a lot of ways. And and then when you talk about someone recreating or, kind of recreating the business, he's done it twice, which no one can say that, from turning heel with the NWO to his 1980s WWF run. So probably the most important figure in pro wrestling history.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I would say so.
Definitely.
But do you think more than Vince?
Vince probably.
Well, I don't count him. I don't count him.
Yeah, wrestler wise for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I look at Hulk Hogan and I say if you were to if I was to put together a list of my top 20 moments in pro wrestling that I personally enjoyed, Hogan's got to be in half of them. He's been such a big part of so many great moments, and we could list them all off, but I would rather everyone in the chat let us know what your favorite moments in Hulk Hogan's career was or life was. Ashkay in the comment says wrestling wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for the Hulkster. Rest in peace, the greatest of all time. And Gilbert with an analogy: Vince was Quincy Jones, Hulk was Michael Jackson. That's a good analogy there. But Matt, you spoke, or you knew Hulk Hogan. You worked with him over at TNA. What are your thoughts today as we hear this news?
That I wasn't a fair weather friend to him, meaning when all that stuff came out about him, and a lot of these podcasts I'm watching today, or a lot of these social media platforms I'm watching today, I see a lot of folks that didn't grow up like Raj and I did. Jack, how old are you?
I'm pretty old. I'm 43.
Okay, I'm 48. So I was.
So you're pretty old too.
I was 8. Well, it's important because a lot of these folks know Hulk Hogan that are commenting on it once he hit NWO, and when he was passe, and then hit NWO and got hot again, and he wasn't their childhood idol like he was every single one of us that grew up in our adolescence in the 1980s. He smashed through barriers between the Rock and Wrestling Connection, being on MTV. I had his Hulk Hogan weightlifting set, his protein drink when I was too young to even know what protein was, etc. I'm in a long line of other people with that. But the difference is I got older. I got in the wrestling business, met him backstage at a SmackDown taping at the time, and I was still in Ohio Valley Wrestling. And I was in the locker room, and Rocky Johnson, Rock's dad, was our trainer at the time in OVW, and he was really working with me on my punches. And I'd met Rock that night, and as very star-studded as I was by that, because he was the man by this time. He was already now doing the Mummy and was this huge celebrity. It was Hulk Hogan that I was absolutely come over with emotions with, that I got to meet, shake his hand, and have him say, "Holy ish," if that's what's the saying? This guy's a brick bleep house, is what he referred to me to Rocky. And he goes, "If you can't get this guy right, something's wrong with you, Rocky." And to be fair to Rocky, it wasn't his job to do that. It was his job to teach us how to train, etc. And I eventually get called up to WWE, but when I was up there, he was no longer there. Fast forward to TNA. Okay. I start with TNA. I want to say 06 or 07 and have a good run there as the blueprint Matt Morgan, and then Bischoff and Hogan coming, as everybody likes to say, right? I just got a comment from one of our folks.
Yeah.
But long story short, he became a fan of mine and my biggest backer in that damn company when they would put me, because once Bischoff and them came in, it got weird. Like, you could tell they didn't watch any of our TNA shows previously. They didn't know what made AJ Styles. We know this story, right? But it was like he'd be in production meetings when he wasn't supposed to be in production meetings, he being Hulk at the time. Mm-hmm. And he's like, why are we putting, this guy's our giant. Why are we putting Morgan in a random tag team with Joey Ryan? It's a throwaway. It makes no sense at all. Mm-hmm. And in his defense, he was right, because he went to bat for me and created a storyline for me where I would come into his surf shop, debo him, bully him for his Chase Stadium robe that he wore against Andre the Giant. Mm-hmm. And I got to start wearing that on TNA each week, being a jerk to Hulk Hogan and trying to antagonize him and be a prick. And he handpicked me to do that. He didn't have to do that. Especially, we were on an off day. It was a Saturday. We went to the surf shop to shoot all of that. And we remained in contact from that day to his passing day. And when the rumors that were out there that he was in a hospital, he was. And was blessed enough to be able to check on him and see how he was doing. Very close with his daughter, Brooke, as well. And man, my condolences go out to the whole family first and foremost. But man, this, for the younger generation, they're never going to get it. For those that you grew up on LeBron James as your it guy, it doesn't even hold a candle to how important Hulk Hogan was. If you grew up in the 80s as a little boy, even a little girl, I don't care. He's the biggest star in our company, in the professional wrestling world history. It's not even debatable to me. I don't care what Steve Austin did. No disrespect to Steve, love him to death, but for real, short term, Steve was a bigger draw monetarily speaking, but not long term. And because of, Hulk did say some crazy racist things. We all know about it. You got to talk about it. But while at the same time, you could absolutely you could actually put one over here while at the same talking about his importance to the history of professional wrestling that would not be where it's at today without him. Full stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wish that Hogan had taken the many opportunities he had to try to make right what he had said in those videos. But now today, I feel like not really much us talking about that is going to do to help anything.
He did make some media
appearances. He did, though. He did. No, he definitely did. The problem was they relitigated it again when he came back to WWE, like many, many, many years after he did all this work, did all of that stuff. Sorry. No, you're right. I'm sorry, I meant to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say there was the one time when he got to speak to the locker room, and instead of really apologizing for what he said, he said basically, you should not make sure you don't get caught. People have cell phone cameras everywhere, and I think that is what left the sour taste in a lot of people's mouth.
100%. That's exactly right. That's 100% right. And people continue to still relitigate it. But he did do, to my understanding, unless I'm wrong, people could tell me I'm wrong, what he had to do to make efforts to understand what he did was wrong, which, how hard is that to understand, right? We all obviously get that. That's insane. And it was disgusting what he said. But at the same time, again, that's over here. Here, we're talking about his importance to an industry as a whole. And, growing up as that was my idol. Like him and Michael Jordan were many of our idols back when we grew up as little kids in the 80s. And it hurt when he did say that, without question, absolutely hurt. But at the same time, I do believe people can try to become better people and try as best they can to fix their mistakes. And I was really excited to see him find Christ. I know people think, oh, that's just a work. Somebody finds Christ. Was he hiding under the bed? And mock it and make fun of it. I don't make fun of it. I don't think it's funny at all. I think if somebody is true blue about that and their belief in Christ, God bless them for it.
You know, when you talk about, you know, icons of the 80s, you know, you got Mike Tyson, you got Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson. Hogan was in that list of, you know.
Oh, without question.
And yes. That's never happened since then. You know, no matter how big Austin got, maybe with The Rock, but Rock was more for his stuff outside the ring than necessarily his during his prime as a wrestler. Hogan was, man, he was a cultural icon phenomenon.
He was called, and Jack, he was pop culture before anybody knew what pop culture, what that phrase even was. Meaning he was appearing on all of these other channels when cable first hit in the 80s and was a big deal. He was on like every frigging channel, from the Tonight Show with David Letterman to MTV, etc. He was on just about every single channel promoting the WWF. And I'm sorry, without that promotion, WrestleMania would have failed. I'm sorry, they could have brought all the Muhammad Ali's they wanted in there. It would have failed on its face if you didn't have Hulk Hogan as the catalyst of it.
Yeah, and we have a lot of folks in the chat. I do want to give a shout out to them. Thanks for being a part of the show. Frankie D in the chat saying that he is heartbroken, still in shock and disbelief. Started watching wrestling back in 1979.
He knows.
We got Akshay saying wrestling wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for the Hulkster. Rest in peace, the greatest of all time. We've got Stellar Justin Lopez. Stellar Justin Lopez. That's the name I haven't seen in a while.
Back.
Good to see you. Stellar says, even as a kid, I was never a Hulk Hogan fan, but I'm not foolish enough to ignore the contributions he made to the business. It wouldn't have reached the heights it did, and I wouldn't be the fan. I think that's great to say if you're someone who's not a fan of him personally. If you've watched him, like I said, he's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I think I could list off so many moments where I'm like, this is. I mean, Rock Hogan, Goldberg Hogan for me, I always say is one of my favorite matches of all time, because me and my buddies, when we found out that match was happening, it was summer break. We spent the whole day just doing pro wrestling. So we played the pro wrestling video game and the WCW game at the time. And we all got a bunch of our buddies together. We got a bunch of junk food, and it was like a pay-per-view for us watching this Nitro. Yeah. And that moment and that match was so cool to me. But
Hogan,
Raj,
Andre, both ones. The one on the main event, I remember that Monday, because it was on a Friday night. And that Monday, all our friends at the bus stop, and we cannot stop talking about it. We're like, is Andre the champion? Is DiBiase the champion? They screwed Hulk. They got to give the. I mean, it was the talk of the school. Yeah.
And Raj, I watched that at bowling. My parents were in a stupid bowling league on Friday nights. Saturday night. And when we watched that it was on all the TVs in the bowling alley, by the way. Yeah. And so like me and the kids of the bowlers were all watching it. I'm talking like 50 of us. Mm-hmm. And everyone just started crying. They thought like wrestling was dead because the $1 Million Man had Andre the Giant win the title, and he was now the new champion. Yeah. So like you said, for the next some odd hours and days until Jack Tunney stepped in, it was a life changer. I'm not exaggerating this, you guys. I swear to God, I'm not. It was huge. Devastation.
Yeah, and when he come and saved the Macho Man, it's like it was just some of the best memories of pro wrestling in my life happened, during those years. And it's and to your point, Jack, Hogan Rock, Hogan Warrior, and that Goldberg match was, and even Sting, even though the ending fell flat. Again, that was the peak of WCW in a lot of ways that night. They did better ratings the next year because they had that snowball going. Mm-hmm. But it was something else.
And something you mentioned, Raj, that I think a lot of people don't think about enough when they think about the biggest wrestlers in the world or of all time, is Hulk Hogan was a part of a company that made one company as a good guy the biggest wrestling company in the world, took over everything. And then a decade later, as a bad guy, went to a different company and made it the number one company in the entire world. And it's hard to. I mean, it'd be like if I'm trying to think of a good example, but it'd be almost like if Roman Reigns went to AEW and then within 2 years AEW was beating WWE in the ratings.
Right.
Like
but on a smaller scale.
But yeah. It's like it's just the amount of things he did in pro wrestling, for the longevity that he did in pro wrestling, because it was decades of time he was doing this. You can't be understated. And even the time in TNA, I think, people will have their opinions of their time, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan's time in TNA, but I feel like more people I knew were talking about TNA during that time than any time before it. Just an incredible career. And like I can't remember if we said it on air before we went on air, very much like he was like Superman. Like, it's weird to think that like he's never gonna die. He's Superman, it's like he was a superhero to people who watched him before. And it's it's sad.
Let me hop in here. So if folks can imagine being those of you that are our age, I know there's some that probably are not that are watching this. Of course, now my camera gets froggy. Sorry.
I gave you the solo and it went.
Of course it did. I call it Morgan's Law, not Murphy's Law. It's Morgan's Law. Anything that will screw up will screw up. But I was going to say, folks watching this, imagine being a little kid and 50% of your room space, the walls, is wall-to-wall Hulk Hogan. Nobody else, Hulk Hogan. The other 50% is Michael Jordan, right? And imagine being drafted in the NBA and being able to play against Michael Jordan. Like, what would you feel? That's how I felt when he came to TNA. And not only came to TNA, and yeah, you could tell they didn't watch the product before they came in. I really wish they did. They didn't. But childhood Matt Morgan was going bananas that Hogan was now here, and even more bananas when I'd see him stick up for me and defend me when he's not part of creative. He was not part of creative at TNA. He wasn't supposed to be in production meetings. He would go in there and defend certain things that he wanted to see get done, thank God, and go like, guys, this guy could be our Undertaker. This guy, at the time, Batista was still wrestling. This guy could be our Batista. What are we doing here? You keep giving him World Heavyweight Championship matches. He keeps coming up short. I think it's like 8 times now. So he did see a little bit previous before he came in, and maybe he did that research a year in. I don't know. But he did say that line once. And then he created that storyline like, okay, you're going to put him in a stupid tag team, then whatever, but I'm pulling him aside, and we're going to do this thing where he comes into my surf shop and jacks my robe off the wall and thinks he's the new Thunder Lips and starts crapping on me every week and burying me for being a terrible company head, if you will, because he was our head on television at least. And he didn't have to do any of that. Legit, he didn't have to do any of that. So you imagine me morphing back to being 8 years old and having his action. We all had his action figures, but like, this was my guy. This was my idol. There's no understatement in that, along with every kid that grew up in the 80s for the most part. And to have your idol be like, okay, out of the whole pile, I want this one. That's incredible when you're in that working environment together one day. And I'll never forget it ever. It's why I've always remained in touch with him ever since, through the good times, the bad times. And that's with his whole family, for that matter, not just Terry himself, but his daughter Brooke as well. Brooke, I don't know if you guys saw that, had amazing news a while back with giving birth and being a mom. She's going to be an incredible mom. And yeah, considered an honest friend. I've been in the wrestling business a long time. There's only so many I consider a legitimate friend that would text me on my birthday. Shoot, Terry would text me on my anniversary. Why does he know my anniversary? Why would he know my anniversary? He does. Maybe he's cheating on social. I don't know. I just know he's one of the few that would do that, and vice versa. So I love them.
Matt, I'm curious what you got to work with Hulk Hogan. You've obviously spoken a little bit about that. What are some differences between who we saw on TV and who you got to work with backstage?
Without question, energy, the universe. So you guys remember, remember when The Secret came out?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
I'm a 19-year recovered opioid addict. I talk about it all the time ad nauseum because I'm proud to have overcome that. It's my biggest achievement. I'm keeping it real with everybody watching this. Being a painkiller addict early in my wrestling career, my first 5 years, I'd say. But it's what you put out to the universe is what you're going to get back. So even if you're not faith-based, even if you don't believe in Christ, you don't believe in a religion, that's everybody's prerogative. I'll never crap on somebody for that. Terry's big thing when he was still getting to Christ and he was still finding his way to Christ, I remember like yesterday, was he did more than just read The Secret or listen to the CD version of The Secret. I'm dating myself here. Or it was he really believed, he started to really truly believe in that. Like what you put out, you do bad things, you say these bad things are going to come back your way. And if you're willing to change that, and you're willing to change what we would call your frequency. So imagine a TV remote in your hand. I know it sounds crazy. If you're willing to change your frequency of what you're eliciting out to the universe, okay? If you don't believe in Christ or God, you're going to get back, good or bad. So it might as well be good and bust your butt to try to help other people. And people can say what they want about him. I'm sorry. I was on a cast of American Gladiators. And this was the beginning of Terry with having his serious back issues, where he'd have to take a golf cart from the set of American Gladiators just to go take a piss, which was like maybe 40 feet away, and a golf cart back to the main set where him and Layla Ali would host the show and host the next event that we were on, right? And I was always shocked by that, but even more impressed that after these are long tapings. This is not wrestling. American Gladiators is not wrestling. It's just like normal Hollywood. If you're filming a movie or a TV show where you're on set 5,000 hours a day. And if those that know me with my short fuse know that I used to be so annoyed by it, because I'm live to go. I'm not going to need another take here. Let's go. But what was impressive, after a long day of 12-hour tapings, might I add, for American Gladiators 2008, when they brought it back to NBC, I watched Hulk on 4 separate occasions, who should have been out of the arena by now, because I'm changing out of my Gladiator outfit. We're done for the night. He really should have been left because he had nothing to change out of. Okay, here he comes in his golf cart, but he would not. There was a special needs kid in a wheelchair that was behind this like curtain partitioned off area. It was a Make-A-Wish kid, I later learned. And I watched Terry through the curtain where my locker room weren't locker rooms, dude. It was a partitioned like black curtain area for me and other guys. And I could hear Hulk doing this, "What you gonna do, brother?" The whole routine. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I peeked through the curtain, and sure enough, he's full-fledged Hulk Hogan, bigger than life. Nothing's wrong with his back, by the way, somehow. And he's cutting this promo on the kid and hyping him up. This is a kid that was going to be passing away not too soon after to cancer. And Hulk's sitting there building him up, hyping him up as this amazing hero. And I remember thinking, like, he doesn't have to do any of this. He does not have to do a Make-A-Wish right here, especially with the amount of pain he's in. And after a 12-hour shoot, I watched him do this 4 separate times with my experience being a gladiator on American Gladiators. And that's what I'll always remember about him.
You know, Matt, Jason Voorhees in the chat has a question for you. I want to send your way. Jason Voorhees says, I wish TNA would have finished the Matt Morgan Hulk Hogan story they dropped. Can Matt explain why the story dropped?
Yes, because Terry was only able, he had just,
Oops.
It's okay. Terry had just had back surgery, if I remember correctly. And as usual, like, get in line with the other TNA storylines that they dropped when we were getting to the precipice, right? They had me go through every main event Mafia member except for Booker T, historically, to get to Kurt Angle at the Bound for Glory, biggest pay-per-view of the company's history at the time, and have me fall short to Kurt. And it was still supposed to make me, versus Kurt saying, like, what are we doing here? You just dragged this kid for how many months? For the better part of the year, beating all these other former heavyweight champions, Scott Steiner, Kevin, Sting. Who else am I forgetting here? That's it. And Booker, and Mick Foley was thrown in there in a tag team too. They put me over on to really build me up to go look like I can beat Kurt Angle. And They pulled the plug at the last second because they said Kurt Angle has to wrestle AJ Styles for the heavyweight championship next pay-per-view. I'm like, Kurt Angle can lose 100 times in a row. Nobody's going to look any different about him. And Kurt said that to Vince Russo at the time, but they still had their plans, and it is what it is. And I just show I can do good business. I'm not going to cry about it, right? I can now. But my point was, it's just another one of those stories where they would get me. I faced for the heavyweight championship either on a pay-per-view. No, on a pay-per-view. 8 times. 8 times to come up short all 8 times. That's how you bury a giant. So I can't answer this question more directly. I'd say throw that as a shrimp on the Barbie with all the others.
We got another question here, Raj. I want to send this one to you, and it's Jason Voorhees as well. Actually, Jason, great questions today. Says, how does WWE hurdle the issue of blacklisting Hogan months ago and mourning him now? Wouldn't that be hypocritical? What are your thoughts, Raj, on how WWE is going to proceed with Hogan? I don't remember him being blacklisted. He was just on recently, but
he was blacklisted years ago, but then
I remember that.
Then he came back, and he wasn't blacklisted. He was supposed to be on Saturday night's main event earlier this year, and apparently it was Hogan that canceled. It wasn't WWE that dropped him. And the Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer is on their mat, and they've had Hulk Hogan Real American Beer commercials there throughout the show. So I don't think he was ever blacklisted. So, but yeah, I think they're going to do a big thing for him. It'll be interesting to see how AEW handles it, because Tony Khan had said he blackballed Hogan. Hogan can't appear. I'm sure TNA will do something big for him. AEW has got to mention something, obviously.
Did Tony Khan really say that?
Yeah, he said Hogan's never invited. He can never go to one of their shows.
I think it was something that happened, with one of his controversies that I think triggered that response. I can't remember what it was.
I think it was Linda Hogan said something, and then Tony Khan responded saying, like your husband, you're never allowed to an AEW show. It was something.
Wow.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Because all 3 of them, I'm sure, are lining up to buy a front row seat to watch it, Tony. What you, Mark? Seriously, I get you might not like how. Listen, everybody has their own opinion and are free to feel what they want. What he said was horrific. We all know this. It doesn't make you somebody that's more righteous than the rest of us that can't see what he said was horrifically bad. But you got to be able to do 2 things at once here, folks. You can't take away from historical value of building this very business that you all still to this day get to go and watch and cheer. If it's AEW, good on you. That company does not exist without Hulk Hogan and what he did in the 80s to get this business where it is on the mainstream level again. In the story.
Herv Hightower says the matches with Andre will always be in my mind. I might watch, but today I can't hear. It's still fresh.
Herv, sorry, brother. I can tell you feel this a lot too. And you grew up like the rest of us. Some of us did. Most of us did in that same era. So, man, I feel your pain, brother.
Then
Anel says it was the Linda thing.
That's how it started. And then he later said more about it.
So it'll be interesting. I think AEW, I'd like to think they'll still say something. I have a feeling that
I don't care if they do. I don't care if they do or not. Honestly, I don't.
I think they should. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Should they? Yes. Am I going to be heartbroken if they don't? No, because we know how they run their business. They don't run a business. They run a virtue signaler first business before actual cash making business. That's what they do.
I do think that on Friday on SmackDown, they're going to have an incredible video package for Hogan. I have a feeling that because WWE is so good at their video packages anyways, when this video package is going to be incredible.
Jack, I don't want to put any of that out there just because, who knows how it's going to come back, right? Who the hell knows in today's culture? I just know that's why I wanted to do this show. I just wanted to share my childhood and your childhoods growing up and what he meant, because there's so many fans nowadays, God bless them, that are slightly newer compared to us as fans and never really understood that first chapter of Hulk Hogan that blew this business into outer space and back.
Blopey says, Bash the Beach 96, single biggest moment in pay-per-view history, in my opinion.
Have you ever been more satisfied with a non-finish in a wrestling match ever? Remember, there was no finish in that match.
No.
Scott Hall counted the pin.
Counted 3. Yeah.
Which, by the way, isn't fair. The NWO should have won that match. Hulk Hogan was on the team.
They were supposed to. Hogan messed up. He wasn't supposed to throw the referee out of the ring. The ref was supposed to count that pin. Eric
Wait,
Bischoff
all
has told
these
that
years?
story.
I never knew this.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
So Scott Hall counted the pin, but yeah, they were supposed to win.
I was always so angry because I was like, he won. Why did they throw it out? He's on the team. He did nothing wrong. But you're right. He did throw the ref out. But hey, no DQ. Anyways.
And there's hang on, I have a good sense of humor. So there's a definitive Hulk Hogan. Wait, what? He cost himself his own win? Joke in here somewhere.
Yes.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah. If anybody would have wanted that win, it's Hulk Hogan.
It's in there. It lurks in here. It does.
Yeah, there's never been a heel turn like that. John Cena, people, that was the comparison. It wasn't even close. And obviously the follow-up, very different. Hogan had the greatest heel turn of all time.
Yeah, not even close.
Hey, Raj. No, keep going. Sorry, guys. I won't mess up the flow. Keep going, Jack.
Oh, no, go ahead. That was it.
Yeah.
What year was the year? And I wanted to talk positively about Terry during this, not negatively, but what was the year he made that comment that came out and everybody heard it? Do you remember?
Gosh, I want to say it was.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Gosh, so let me actually look it up because I don't want to say something wrong. It was in the 2010s.
Yeah,
it wasn't
2015.
Is that when it came? Well, when did he say it? Not when it came out.
So it came out in 2015, but he had said it years earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because again,
oh wow, it looks like it came out literally as I'm Googling it. 10 years ago to the day. Is when it came
July
out.
2015 is when it came out. That's crazy.
2015.
Because I remember I was in Vegas and that night he got pulled from the Hall of Fame and people were texting me and I had I'm like texting WWE. I'm like, what's going on? Was this a mistake or?
Yeah.
And then I think it was like a day or two later where it was revealed.
But we don't know the date of when he said it. Not when it came out. When it came out, it doesn't matter. It's when he said it is what was always.
B40 says 2008.
That feels right. No, that feels right. That feels right.
Because it was in the sex tapes where he said it with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife.
Which is still weird.
Let me ask you a question. He didn't also say it like when he was on those phone conversations with Nick when Nick was in prison?
He said similar stuff. Yeah. He said some racist
The reason
stuff.
I'm asking that is because I was just sharing with everybody earlier. One of the things I bonded with him on was what you put out is what you get back. And he really, truly believed that. And that was like the beginnings of his first few steps of, becoming Christian. So that's why I was just wondering what those dates were. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go. Joseph Venditti, the legendary Hogan and Andre's Piper Pit. Oh my God. Turn heel, iconic stuff. Hell yes. I cried hook, line, and sinker. I did. Guys, I cried when he shaved Andre's head. You can imagine what I did when he made Hulk Hogan's chest bleed with the crucifix.
I remember because my first exposure to Hulk Hogan after Rocky III, I became a wrestling fan in late '87. But I watched Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, and Hogan and Andre were friends on that show in that cartoon. And so when my friends were telling me like, "Oh no, they're enemies now," I'm like, "What? I need to find this," and I just couldn't. This was before the internet. It was kind of hard to find wrestling if you're not looking hard for it. And then eventually I did, and the rest was history.
I always say I got into wrestling because my cousin would bring over tapes when he was babysitting me as a kid. And so I'd watch wrestling, but it wasn't like in any order. It was just kind of like whatever. And the first show I remember, it was the 93 Royal Rumble with Hogan, and being shocked. Why is he acting like a bad guy? Why is he not just accepting that he lost? He's trying to pull, why is Hogan being a poor sport? It messed with my head for a long time. But
with Sid?
It was Sid.
Yeah, that was 92, right?
Or 90. Well, was it 92 then? Yeah, it was 92. It was,
that's when I started to morph a little bit off of Hogan. When Sid came in, I was like, oh my God.
Sid was so cool.
I mean, it was every man for himself.
I'm not going to lie. When I felt like as a fan, I started to cheat on Hulk Hogan a little bit. Yeah. And I'm like, this Sid guy is way bigger. He's more impressive. He looks crazier. This is a cool looking dude. This might be my new favorite wrestler for a minute.
Yeah.
Sid looked Sid popped back then. For me, it was the Savage. Savage became my favorite of all time, during his feud with Hogan. But I remember that Sid, that when Sid kicked out of the leg drop at WrestleMania, I was like, oh my God, I'd never seen that before. Yes. I've seen Hogan miss on Warrior, but I've never seen a kick out. But apparently that was improv on the spot. He wasn't supposed to kick out.
So for me, it finally morphed to Undertaker. Because I was always a big guy fan. Because my dad used to use pro wrestling as the example. Because I used to be made fun of because I'm taller than everybody, right? And you don't want to be taller than everybody when you're a little kid. You want to fit in. You want to be the same height as everybody else, all the popular kids, and just be normal and camouflage yourself in a perfect world. So grow up with special education and being a foot taller than everybody else, it made you uncomfortable. And he would use Andre as an example. Look what he's doing with his height, Matt. Because Hulk Hogan guy is huge. Look what he's doing with his height. Then when Sid came, he said that. And then when they didn't always say Undertaker's height when he first started. It was maybe about a couple years in when they started constantly reminding us this near 7-footer. That's when that became my guy on my own and rode me off to the next generation until Nitro got hot again. Hogan came back and then he became my guy again. It's crazy.
Yeah. Should we get a couple more of these comments and wrap it up?
Yeah, we got B40 saying, I saw Hulk in his prime when his music hit. The place was so loud it was quiet, if that makes sense. Ears are ringing after something like that.
Right.
Funny random thing here is I got one of those when I was younger. I got one of those they had, I can't remember what they were called, but they're the stuffed stuffed
the wrestling buddies.
Yeah, and you'd hit them and they'd make you're breaking my arm. And it's still at my parents' house. And I was digging through some boxes in the attic. And I think I must have bumped it or something. It's still in there somewhere because I just heard in one of the boxes, you're breaking my arm. And I was like, oh my God, the battery's still working this thing.
That's insane.
That's crazy. This thing's got to be 25 years old, at least 30 or whatever.
Give me two. Keep taking all these questions. I'm going to show you why I'm still the world's biggest mark. Give me 2 seconds.
El Poncho Loco says, say what you will, there's no denying that Hogan put the business that we all enjoy to this day on the map. I was a Warrior guy and can remember 1990 and my brothers and I going nuts for that match. Yeah, that was a big one. Hogan, Warrior. Ghoulie says his Gremlins 2 cameo. I didn't know he was in Gremlins 2.
Yeah, I remember. I did not know at the time he was in it. And when he showed up, I was like, what? Hogan?
Hulk Rock Toronto, the roof came off the place, says Pat Grace. That's got to be one of my favorite of all time. I think a lot of people say that's a top match of all time.
I could still watch that match to this day. It's a just one of those reminders that you don't have to kill yourself to entertain the fans.
I always say with that match, again, being a WCW guy, and everyone, WWE ended up mopping the floor with WCW at the end, and WCW became a joke. And I always say what I loved about that match is just in the beginning when they lock up and Hogan throws down the Rock. It felt like for a little bit, us WCW NWO fans had a moment of yeah, see, we worked great. Yeah,
I'm not comeuppance, but a little revenge.
Yeah, it felt like a great moment. So that's one of the reasons why I love that one. This is a question for you though, Raj. Vincent R says, was Hogan Macho Man the greatest wrestling storyline ever told?
Yeah, I think so for sure. It was a year of 2 top stars and led to a gigantic match. I wish that match took place somewhere else. I just never liked those Trump Plaza WrestleManias as far as the location and how quiet the fans were the whole show. But outside of that, I thought it was the best angle of all time.
So my apologies for false advertisement. God, I was hoping my wife would be here, but she left with my son just a few minutes ago to take him to occupational therapy. Anyways, I wanted her to tell the story out of her mouth, because you've heard me say this ad nauseum, folks that watched us back when we were on the Wink podcast, that in college, this is how cool wrestling was, how cool the NWO was. I had the old LJN Hulk Hogan figure on my TV in my dorm room. Okay, like where she and I would be college kids together, right?
Yeah.
Early on in our dating. And imagine her walking in like, why is there a Hulk Hogan doll on your freaking TV? That didn't come up. Can I tell you why it didn't come up? Because the NWO was that damn cool. Everybody already knew what it was. And because I drew the beard on the LJN figure, and I wrote NWO for life on his chest with a marker, like a complete mark. But it's still here in this house, and I don't know where it is. And I'm very frustrated right now.
Yeah. Oh, you got I love it.
Got the Hulk Hogan bobblehead.
You know, I always say one of the things about Hulk Hogan that made him special too is, you know, a lot of times you think it's about him, but so much of it was actually about you, the fans. You know, he'd always say, he never say, I, Hulk Hogan, can beat anybody. It was Hulkamania can defeat anybody. And the Hulkamania was the fans. And even when he was a heel with the NWO, I always say the thing that made the NWO special was, with the Four Horsemen, there's only 4 of them. It's a cool club and you're not in it, you know? And same thing with every other stable. With the NWO, if you put the shirt on, you're in the NWO. You could be in the crowd. And as long as you got that shirt on, you're NWO. And everything he did was always really about the fans being a part of it. And I think that's one of the reasons he was so successful. RDG has a super chat. RDG, the best person in the chat for my dollar so far today. says I remember I was mad because the leg drop finisher was not in the NWO WCW Revenge game for Hogan. That's right. What was his finisher in that game? He would do the leg drop, but it was just like a basic move that didn't hurt anybody. Wow. Did you guys play the games? I was in love with these games.
Yes, I didn't play that one.
WCW NWO Revenge and the World Tour before that was one of the things that really got me super into wrestling. Like, I was into wrestling a lot, but that was when, like, all my friends, we all kind of realized, oh, we're all into this weird thing, pro wrestling, and so we'd all get together and play the games and stuff. And that was then how I got my wrestling crew to hang out with, which is always good for pro wrestling. But Willie Thornbrew says Conrad Thompson has said Hulk Hogan is the reason for his wrestling fandom, which means without Hulk Hogan, none of us would be here right now. Literally.
He's right. In this forum, he's 100% right.
Thunderlips is in the house, baby. The ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball. Poncho Loco. Thunderlips, what a great name. WWE just released, as we speak, Hulk Hogan unreleased collection video on WWE Vault. And we also got AOTV Productions with a super chat. Man, we got a lot of great fans here today. Says, I know he made mistakes, but I believe he felt remorse for them. His contributions to wrestling is unmatched and will never be forgotten. I think I don't think there's no one even close, I think, to Hulk Hogan as far as contributions go to pro wrestling. A lot of great stuff here, fellas. Everyone who's in the chat, again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here live. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow Podcast Heat Wrestling. Before we go, and everyone in the chat or everyone who's watching this later, leave a comment with your favorite Hulk Hogan moment or Hollywood Hogan moment, or just hit us with a little too sweet. I still too sweet some of my friends from those days, by the way, whenever we see each other. Too sweet. But before we go, let's go around the horn. Raj, any final memories or thoughts or things you want to share on Hulk Hogan?
I think we got through all of them, but thanks for everyone for joining us. You know, this is the first time we've done it outside of we've only been here for a couple of weeks, so please like and subscribe, and and join us Monday nights after Raw.
And Matt, any thoughts, any final thoughts or words you'd like to share on Hogan? And I know you knowing him is obviously, I'm sure there's a million things you want to say, but anything you want to add just for the end here before we wrap up?
That in the business I came out of, pro wrestling, that you know a lot of your friends are going to pass. You know, those that came before you are obviously going to pass that you grew up loving and watching. But again, how do I explain the passing of somebody that was my childhood idol, became a friend, and it's different. It hits very different. It's the only way I can explain it. It sucks. But at the same time, thanks to everybody for their comments, chiming in here and sharing your childhood for many of you with us. It makes us all feel like we're one, right? That's what wrestling does. It brings everybody together. It's why it's the coolest sport or entertainment form on the planet, because we're all fans at the end of the day, including the wrestlers. It's no different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. And as Raj said, the likes, the comments, the shares, the subscribes, really important as we're a new show and we're trying to get this thing up and going. So if you guys could share it, that would be very much appreciated. I'd love to have us be the #1 show on the channel, just so we could be jerks about it to everybody else at the very least and brag about it. But everyone, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and thanks for sharing some fun memories of Hogan. And again, please leave any of those comments or any memories we didn't get to in the chat. That does it for us. You can make sure to follow Podcast Heat Wrestling, of course, throughout the week and all the amazing hosts they have. And you can see us every Monday after Raw, and that's when you'll likely see us next, unless some more news breaks. But we'll see you guys on Monday. That does it for us. We're hitting the end stream button.